that you either find fascinating or you see people are finding annoying. You say, hey, let me help you out with that small thing.
Right.
And you build trust.
Yes.
Because no matter where you are, if it's an internship or a job, people have to trust you.
Correct.
And you build trust with small wins, not with big wins.
Because I tell people, I say trust is not a gift. Right, no one can gift you with trust. If I meet you today and I say I trust you, I'm lying to you. Or maybe I'm not lying, I just don't understand what I'm saying. Trust is earned, right? If someone gives you their word on something little and the person shows up, you're like, I trust this person to show up because of X, Y, Z, right? Because they've shown up before. So yeah, so you have to earn that trust by showing up and asking for stuff and then actually following through. Welcome to Negotiation Secrets. This is your #1 podcast where we talk about all things negotiation. We have people from different parts of the world, people at different stages in their career. We have them come here and share their stories so we can learn from their stories and become better negotiators. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Isomeme. I'm an internal medicine physician. Before I introduce my guests, I want to ask you to do something. Do you mind liking this video, sharing it with your friends so we build a community of people who are master negotiators who learn from each other? And today I have a gentleman with me. He's lived all over the world. He's lived in like 9 countries, I believe. Mm-hmm. His name is Anas. Anas, do you mind introducing yourself to my guests, to my audience?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
My name is Anas, as you heard. I'm an investment analyst at a private equity firm in Dubai. I'm originally Indian. I've lived sort of all over the world. I was, the kind of baby that gets picked up because of his dad's profession and moves around. And I became a nomad myself and took that in my genetics, I guess, and moved around as well.
Yeah.
And now I'm here sitting and talking to you today.
So what countries? I know you lived in the US.
Right.
France,
if I were to list them out. Yeah. So born in India, moved to Saudi, moved to Bahrain, back to Saudi. Dubai for middle school, high school.
Yeah.
Picked up my bags at 17 and moved to the US.
Oh, you left. So when you got to 17, you continued the movement. That was not your parents anymore.
That was not my parents.
Okay, so let's not blame your parents too much.
No. Okay. It's the genes that came into my blood.
Right. You already started the journey and there was no way you could stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I left for the US. Then COVID struck. I came back for a few months.
Oh, you went to the US when COVID started?
So I came back here just around that time.
You got lucky.
I got lucky, and I was with family, and that was nice. And I decided to shift out, transfer to France.
Yeah.
Finished up my degree there. While I was there, I lived in Singapore for 6 months.
You lived in Singapore?
Honestly, it's not as nice as people make it out to be.
Really?
Yeah.
Or you just didn't have that experience?
Perhaps because it was also just after peak COVID.
Yeah.
So I didn't get all the excitement that people talk about Singapore with. But it was a nice city. It was a very developed, organized, structured city. And I think maybe perhaps because I'm slightly chaotic in my personality.
You are chaotic?
Slightly, yeah.
What would you describe as chaos?
I like to have many things that I'm doing at the same time.
Gotcha.
And either that's work or even, for example, people at my workplace know I can't be working or I can't be in the zone without classical music playing in the background. And I don't like headphones. So everyone around me is forced to listen to like Mozart.
And everyone has to live through your chaos.
Sort of.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing, to be honest. My chaos is a fun adventure.
Yes.
So Singapore and then the UK for an exchange. And
you went to UK as well?
London, yeah. 6 months I was at King's for an exchange program, and then I did venture capital for a couple of months.
Yeah.
Went back to France to finish up my M1, and then moved to Dubai for a job opportunity.
Right, and all of this, so in a very short span, you've lived in so many countries. Mm-hmm. So what have you gained from all your traveling? And yours is not really traveling, yours is literally going to different countries and living there. Mm-hmm. So what have you picked from all these countries?
I think it's adaptation more than anything. The thing is, it's like even when you join a new firm, I feel like you enter and you don't try to enforce yourself onto the place.
Yeah.
You have sort of like a 100-day plan that people say in theory, and you say, okay, I'm going to understand my surroundings, I'm going to understand my people, the culture of this place, the way they interact with people, how you do groceries, from the smallest thing to the biggest thing.
I know.
Like the first day I was in France, actually, I got dropped off in a park.
Do you speak French?
I landed and had like zero knowledge of
Oh,
French.
zero.
I'd never taken a French class in my
Okay.
life. I can't tell you why I picked France for university, but it's a very stupid story.
Right.
So I'd applied to all these places during COVID for a transfer, which included Europe. I wanted to go to Europe, and Spain and Germany and France and a few others, maybe Switzerland. And peak COVID, I would like to order pizza. So it's like 2:30 a.m. and the Pizza Hut guy would show up at my door pretty much every couple of days with a My Box.
Yeah.
Shout out My Box. You don't make it anymore, and I hate that. I don't like the My Box Pro. And he would show up with this box, and he would say, "Hi sir, so nice to see you. You're like a regular customer." And I would give him a Coke can, and he would give me my pizza. I would go upstairs, and just one day by chance, I decided to go downstairs and check out the fridge. And this is just after I've gotten all my acceptances for my transfer from the US.
Yeah.
And the only magnet, you know how at home you've got like all these fridge magnets?
Correct, from all your visits and all your travels.
Exactly.
Yes.
And my dad travels a lot, so we had a lot of magnets. And we just shifted houses. And the only magnet on my fridge was the Eiffel Tower. I have no idea why that subliminally hit my brain.
So you did your transfer to France because of the magnet?
Yeah. Woke up in the morning, sent them an email, said I accepted, and I left.
Any regrets?
No, none. I loved it.
Okay.
People were beautiful. The food was amazing.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
The culture was very
great.
impressive. Very old and history and cool traditions.
Yeah.
And I think that was a stepping stone to everything I needed to move on to the next stage of my life.
And you said one thing you've learned from your travels is how to adapt. So you go to a new place, then you have to learn that culture, you have to learn how people behave. So you think all of your travels, it's giving you a head start on how to study cultures?
In a sense, yes. And culture is really just people at the end of the day.
Of course.
Right? So it's understanding what's important to what person. And yes, I think traveling as much as you can, whether it's living in different countries or even like my sister, we really got in our blood. My sister loves traveling. She'll get in a fuss if she hasn't ticked off like a new country every year or something like that. She's 5 years older than me. And for her as well, I think it's going there and seeing what that place is all about, and thereby seeing how those people think and how they feel and how they act and eat and love and live and laugh and cry and everything.
Correct.
Which gives you definitely a head start in a small sense in the business world, but it's pros and cons, right? The con of that is you don't have stable footing. So you become your stable footing, or the people around you become your stable footing, but you don't have a physical location to go home.
I'll tell you my own experience. So I'm Nigerian. I was born in Nigeria, grew up in Nigeria, and Nigeria was home. And then I packed my bags about 15 years ago and moved to the US. And so when I was in the US, if you ask me where's home, I would say Nigeria, right? And then I lived in the US for a while, and most of my family live in the US. So the US started feeling like home, but I would still go like, oh, where are you from? I would say Nigeria. And then I packed my bags and I moved to the UAE. And now I'm like, where is home? Right? Because my whole family is in the US. So if I say I want to go home, it's like I'm going to America.
Not Nigeria.
Not Nigeria. And even if I go to Nigeria, I don't have friends there anymore. The way I left things, that's not how it is anymore. So home has changed. Just back to what you're saying. So at the end of the day, it's not like I am my base, right? I have to create that base for myself wherever I go, just take the whole of me. So it's not like, fine, you still leave a piece of you everywhere you go, but it's not like I have to define what home means for me. But for you, you came back. I think the UAE is more like home for you because your parents are here, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's also, I don't know, a lot of people say, and I was thinking about this recently.
Yeah.
Because I've never done weirdly enough, I've gone and lived in these different places, alhamdulillah, by myself, but I've never done a solo trip.
You've never?
Yeah, like a little, 10-day breakout.
Never?
Never.
Look, one of your friends who I interviewed, and she's like really quiet and very reserved. She's done solo trips. I can't believe you haven't done it.
She is an adventurer at heart. Okay. I will say that. Yeah. And she's quiet, but when she's...
But she can be tough when she needs to be.
No, she's resilient as hell.
I could sense that.
She keeps us in check.
Yeah.
No, and I was thinking about this recently. I've never done a solo trip, and I was thinking about why people do solo trips. I'm kind of that kind of person that sits down and thinks a little bit before he makes a decision.
Yeah.
And a lot of people used to say it's about finding yourself.
That's
Which is like that old adage cliche.
I do a lot of solo trips not to find myself. I'm not lost.
Cool. That's my point. I'm getting there,
Yeah.
right? So when I was younger, I'd see that as like an adage, or
Yeah.
maybe my older sister would post that on Instagram, like, "Hey, I'm finding myself in whatever." And I realized it's more about building than finding.
Yeah.
Like you slowly take different parts of different places you've been at, and you build yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that part is quite important. And
Yeah.
people who don't venture out of their circle, whether it's a comfort zone in terms of profession or
Right.
friends or hobbies
Yeah.
or location, in our sense, they don't get to build those different parts.
Correct. And for me, maybe the reason why I do solo travel is just really simple. I want to travel with friends, because when you travel, you experience with your friends or people you know, your siblings, you have a different experience. But because I was in medical school, my schedule never really tallied with anyone's schedule. And then after that, I took on more training. I never really had time. And then when I'm ready to travel, my friends would say, "Oh yeah, I want to travel." And then when it's time to go, they're not ready. And I said, if I keep waiting for people, I would never see the world. And so I started out on my own. And then I started liking it more, because if I travel, I could say, I don't want to go anywhere today. I can just be in my hotel and I'm not disappointing anybody. Or I could wake up and say, 7 o'clock, I have to be out of here. I don't have to wake anybody up. Then it's just me, gives me absolute control. And then I also get to meet people. I would talk to people I would not necessarily have talked to if I was with my friends or my family. So that's my take. I don't know if I've really found myself from traveling, or if I've added. I think living in a place adds to you, but just adds to me. I'll speak for myself, because everyone is different. But when I travel and spend 3-4 days, spend a week, it's just me enjoying myself, having a nice time, learning the culture. Well, maybe that's adding to myself by learning the culture.
Where would you recommend I go?
If you want to do like a solo travel, it depends on what you like, what interests you.
The outdoors. I like the outdoors. Yeah.
And then maybe you can try Switzerland.
Why? Skiing.
You said
I've never skied though.
You could learn.
I'll break a leg.
You might.
Yeah.
Yeah. I learned how to ski. I did it for a few years, and then I was like, when one of my colleagues had a fracture, I was like, okay, I think I've had enough. I've had the experience of skiing, but yeah, Switzerland would be a good place to go to.
Fair.
In the winter.
I have this weird fascination with history, and I wanted to go to see the Mayans and the Incas in like Latin America, Aztec Empire. But that's far away.
There's no end to where you can go.
Yeah, that's the fascinating
You don't have to
part.
do only Switzerland. You can do all.
Yes.
Just give yourself a timeline. Yeah. And so how did you always want to did you always want to be a venture capitalist?
So I'm not a venture capitalist. There's a slight...
so what's the difference? I thought that's what you work for a firm that does it, or what?
So there's a slight difference between venture capital and private equity. Venture capital is just smaller tickets.
Yeah.
And it typically follows, the colloquial way to say it is you have power law, which means 9 out of 10 startups will fail. So you invest smaller checks, you invest in founders and ideas instead of running businesses.
Yeah.
And a startup is more likely to fail than not, but because you've invested in multiple, and any one that's successful can give you 100x return.
Correct.
The dynamic works over time in the long run. Private equity on the other side is a more reliable way of investing. It's literally private capital and taking equity stakes in companies. And it's bigger companies.
Oh, so you don't do the little boys, the small.
No.
So you just do the big guys. So what do you do what do you do in your firm?
So it's a bit of both. I mean, it's a new hat I'm wearing because I only joined them a year and a bit ago.
Okay.
You do a bit of so you've got M&A, mergers and acquisitions, which is executing transactions, and then you've got portfolio management, which is operational control of the firm. So one side is executing the transactions, so negotiating, figuring out their value, figuring out what parts of it you like, pitching that to your board, buying it, essentially. Okay. All the legal stuff and buying it. And the second part is, now that you've bought it, say you've got 10, 14 companies in your portfolio, how do you put that in? How do you integrate that? How do you make sure it's got synergies with everyone? Yeah. Who do you fire? Who do you keep? What revenue lines do you open? Do you enter a new market or a new product, et cetera, et cetera? So it's a bit of both, and it's cool.
So you're involved in both parts of that, of the whole business, or you're involved in just one part?
I was brought in to be involved in the execution of transactions, structuring it and doing the valuations. Yeah. But it's a smaller team and we wear many hats. So I've learned quite a bit, because once you've executed, And maybe in hindsight, I should have understood that once you execute a transaction, because you know the company inside and out, you can now help them better.
Right.
So the ones that I've executed, I've helped, put them into our portfolio, integrate them, expand them, etc., etc.
So how do you know the value? How do you guys do the valuation of a company? So what things do you look at?
I mean, there's an academic answer and a practical answer.
Give me practical.
Practical is whatever I want to pay. And that's not me. Whatever the board wants to pay.
Oh, really? So they can just say, oh, this company is worth 30 million. That's what we're going to pay. Or they could say it's not worth. But but there should be some metrics that you look at, and say you look at their sales, you look at projections and things like that.
So that's the academic answer. And so before I walked into this firm, I was very much that guy. I had been at a bigger investment bank, over 4 to 6 months, still an internship, but doing everything the right way. So, big siloed teams, doing valuations. You look at, the real answer to that question is you do it one of 3 ways. You look at precedent transactions, which is transactions that have happened before in the market. You look at comparable companies, so public companies that trade at similar multiples to your private company, and you discount it for being private and illiquid. And then you do a discounted cash flow, which is you project their cash flows for 5 to 7 years. You discount it back to today using a discount rate, which is risk adjusted, which tells you basically what's the cost of your capital putting into the company. And then you have a terminal value, which is if I sell that company in the future, and what's that present value today. I think an average of these 3 valuation methodologies, and bang, I've got a number, right? And that's really the academic approach. And I chased that. As soon as I entered, I was like, hey, I know how to do these things and I can do it very easily. And the first thing I learned about reality, and it smacked me pretty hard, is no one really cares. Because at the end of the day, yes, if you're looking at, $200, $500 million transactions, if you're looking at $1 billion transaction in the US and developed markets that have had capital markets that have been developed for 50 years, then you need to have that sort of formal structure. Here, it is a developed market. Capital markets are still fairly new. And unless you're taking a public company private, the amount of formalization you require in your documentation is less. So you do the valuations, you have a practical number, and you backwards calculate from the number you want, a very reasonable and logical approach. But at the end of the day, if our partner of the firm would like to buy a company at a certain value, he knows he can walk away from that table if the value is too much. So it comes down to a conversation and negotiating.
Okay. So if one of our audience listening right now is starting a business with the hope of selling that business, so what structure should they have in place for their business to have value in future? I
would hope that you don't start a business with the idea of selling it.
Why not? Everyone should have an exit strategy.
You should, but okay, maybe I am philosophical in that regard. Because for me, it's the reason we work at firms, for example, and maybe when I say we, I'm talking about me, for example, working at a firm, is because I would like to learn. I would like to develop myself and grow my skills to the capacity that they are required to be at for when I have that idea that I would like to move into. For me, someone who starts a company with the idea of leaving is not someone who can be backed by an investor, because they will cut corners and take shortcuts to get themselves to a certain valuation.
Not necessarily.
To a large extent, because I feel like if you were to start a company and put your whole heart and soul into it, and yes, in the back of your head, you know how to exit, but that's not upfront to all your investors, then you're here for the long term.
So some people pursue excellence in everything that they do, not perfection, like some of our friends who pursue perfection. When I say our friends, I'm talking about Abu. Some people pursue excellence. If you can be perfect, then that's great. And so whatever they do, they give it their best shot. But because they're planning on selling does not mean they cut corners. Because they're planning on selling means they develop those deep structures. So when it's time to sell, they have a good product to sell. So I know you don't believe in selling, but however, some people out there, and me inclusive, we believe in selling. So what structure do you have in place so when it's time to sell, you've put your business in a good place that you can sell it for good money?
See, at the end of the day, you have to do your business right. And you're right. If you've done your business right, there's no let's say magic secret to structuring your business to being ready for an exit. It's just about making sure you've followed or ticked all the boxes or followed the processes, which means, you have a viable data room. You have all your documents put into, legal, operational, financial, commercial. You've got transparency and accountability across all of your functions in terms of documentation. You have your audits running every year. So you have your books being checked and cleaned every year by a respected and reputable, it doesn't have to be Big Four, but a decent financial advisor. You've got a succession plan in place. That's very important, because if I want to exit my company, and more often than not in this market here, what happens is someone goes to a bigger firm or an investor and they say, hey, I turn over 20 to 30 mil a year. My business is worth 6 times multiple, so maybe my business is worth 180 million. If my net profit is 30, you can take 60% and you can take 100%, buy me out. And they will say to you, listen, but if we buy you out,
who's going to run the business? Because the business was able to do well because you were in there. So
absolutely, So 9 times out of 10, what they'll say is, listen, we'll buy 50% now. You stay for 2 years, we'll tranche it out, and then you get someone in and train them
to take over.
And if you do that from day one,
then you don't have to be there for 2 years when it's time to go.
And you can realize all that value immediately. You can even stay on as 5% and keep making dividends.
Correct.
Right. So number one would be, structure your documentation, make sure everything's viable, clean, accountable, and transparent. Number two would be, make sure you have audits running and your books are clean. Number three is have a succession plan in place. Number four is beyond that succession plan, and this is a bonus tip.
Look at you, just giving out bonus tip. We'll take it.
Just for an added little feature, make sure you have a business plan in place for the future. So you're selling someone your company's value based on history, but they will buy into it based on your future trajectory. So if I tell you, listen, I've done this in the past, what they're going to say is, okay, now that we buy it, what can we do with it?
Correct.
So make a plan for them. Have an 18-month and then a 3-year plan for them that is actually tangible and realizable. And if they see that those steps are already in motion, you can walk away scot-free.
So when did you finish college?
Last year.
And then, so to what extent are you involved in this whole process with your company?
Which process exactly?
The whole process, the whole acquisition, negotiation, and all of that.
Okay, let's say this. So private equity in Dubai or in the UAE really works in 3 ways. So in the US, you've got, or in developed markets, including the UK, US, France, Germany, whatever, you've got blind pool investing, which means a fund could say raise $500 million. And they, at their discretion, being the general partner for the fund, they could then invest into different deals and keep giving you, LPs have information rights, so you keep giving them information, you tell them what you're investing in. But when they've given you the cash available for drawing it down, it's a blind pool. You haven't told them what deals you're investing in. That doesn't really work in the UAE. Ever since Abraj, 2009, that blind pool doesn't work. The only blind pool firm here actually right now is Alif Capital. And it's very successful, and mashallah, they're doing a great job. I forget the woman at the helm there, but she's doing a very good job. I think they transacted their second one recently. The way it works here is sovereign wealth funds, which is, your government's deciding what to invest into. You've got a family office, which is, someone's been here for 40, 50 years or is a local Emirati, and they started with a business and then they've moved into an office and they have multiple businesses. The third one would be a conglomerate that is your principal. So I sit firmly in the third bucket. We were a captive investment arm. So the conglomerate principal has like 480 people across its different entities, but the investment arm has 5. So while we try our best to manage the portfolio and keep adding on, and transact quite rapidly in the last year at least, there's not a lot of us. So we are quite hands-on across all of our transactions. So from negotiating with lawyers to, calling an architect and telling them to go to site for something, to getting, marketing proposals for a greenfield investment, to doing evaluation and negotiating with PwC. You kind of get that visibility from, financial to operational to legal, in a large extent. Like, we spent a few weeks when I first started in one of our fabrication facilities learning aluminum, because we
Really?
so like, I'm not an engineer. I don't know materials, but we sat there and we figured out, how it's fabricated,
Right.
where, how aluminum is cut in a CNC machine,
Yeah.
how glass is bonded, et cetera, et cetera. So literally sitting in a factory, and it was brilliant. It was good learning.
I can imagine.
Because at the end of the day, this country is run by industrials in a loud sense,
Right.
like oil and gas and industrials. And so to buy assets, you got to understand assets.
Correct. So you're sort of kind of in your lane.
Yes. Yes.
And did you need to have mentors for you to, because you sound very knowledgeable. Why I asked how long, because I knew you didn't leave college too long ago, but you were sounding like you had so many years of experience. So that's why I had to take that question and say, okay, how long have you worked in this place? And
I've learned how to sell. That's all it is. I've had mentors. I've had people I've been lucky enough to call, maybe not officially call my mentors, but
Yeah.
people who've guided me along the way. The first, let's say, direct line manager, he was the director at an investment bank called Alantra,
Yeah.
Zakaria Kalbi. He was a brilliant man. He's the first one who taught me how to do investment banking, like literally, valuations and
Okay.
how to create IMs.
And was this after you were done with college or just while you started your job?
During, so I did 6 internships during
okay.
college, and this was one of
You
my
did 6
internships.
internships?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that gave you a head start because you had dipped your leg in the waters multiple times, so you gained some knowledge. Okay, okay, that makes sense now. Then it kind of explains why you're this knowledgeable. So you would recommend, so if you see anyone who is just starting out, just getting into college, how many internships would you recommend? 6, 10, none?
You don't need 6.
So
No, do 20.
20?
No, I think 6, because for me, like I said, I'm slightly chaotic. I wanted to dip my toes into every pool I could,
Right.
In terms of my professional career, to
Yeah.
understand what I'd like to do in the future.
Correct, that makes sense.
So it was, insurance, a bit of Web3 and blockchain, a bit of wealth management, investment banking, venture capital. So,
Yeah.
here and there too. And I was fortunate enough, I applied like a madman, but I was fortunate enough to get people
Yeah.
who wanted to train me and teach me.
Yeah.
But I think if you know what you're doing,
Yeah. Then you don't need to do saying just do one and then just become proficient at that.
do one and go deep.
Yeah.
Because I think early on in your career, and I'm still quite early on in my career,
Right.
you can go as broad as you want
And then you start to
decide to
narrow
go
down.
deep. Yeah. But if you know what you like to
There's
do,
no point going broad. Just do
deep.
what you.
Be a specialist. Yeah.
But sometimes we don't know what we want. We don't know what we don't want until you try it and you're like, no, that's not what I want.
Very true.
And so you are involved in negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
No, before I ask you about negotiation, you kind of talked about mentorship, doing internships, because there are some people who would go for internships. They get there, and they just ask them to print copies of stuff. They ask them to run errands. They never really learn the details of the business. And sometimes it's because they're not aggressive enough. Sometimes it's just how the structure of the organization is. So what would you advise anyone who goes in for internship to really learn how should they position themselves so they get mentors and they can really learn the trade while they are there?
I think, number one, it really depends on where you're interning. Is it a big conglomerate or is it a local regional office?
Yeah.
And that'll define your path there, because you'll either get a defined structure and you got to do X, Y, Z in the first week, and you got a milestone in 3 weeks, and you got to catch up
Yeah.
at the end of the first month, or it's you get what you give, and more often than not, especially in this region, it's you get as much as you put into it.
Correct.
So I think the best thing for someone as an intern to do
Yeah.
would be, listen, at the end of the day, they don't necessarily need you there.
Correct.
Right? Like, they're living their life. When I say they, I mean the employees.
Yeah.
They're living their lives. They know what they're doing. They've got their systems in place.
Yeah.
And so you're an add-on bonus.
Right.
And so you can be as helpful as you want, or you can be as...
You can just show up and leave and then have it on your resume while you're done.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, you didn't learn anything significant.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if you want to gain from that, and when I say gain, it could be knowledge, it could also be people and mentors,
Yeah.
then you go in and pester people. You become annoying. You tell them, hey, I'm available. If you need something, give me 30 minutes of your time to train me and teach me, and I promise you I'll take this off your workload.
Huh.
And people will respect that.
They will.
Because 9 times out of 10, someone is, an employee is there trying to do his job and leave. If you say, hey, you know what, come out of that zone for a second, sit with me, be real, teach me and train me, I promise you I will add value back.
Right.
And you don't even need to add value, you just say it. and they will take the time.
But that's true. But you know what? If you say that, then you get stuck, right? Because if I have someone walk up to me and say, "Teach me how to do this," I'll take it off your table. I promise you, I'm going to bring that stuff back to you and say, "Hey, now that you've learned how to do this, go with that. That's like 3 hours of my work. Go do it, right?"
No, but you know what? Fair enough. Then it's
Then
on
it's
the
a
onus of the
win-win.
person to have learned.
Yeah, then it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's one thing I see most people struggle with when it comes to internship. They go there, they sit in a corner, and they're waiting for people to reach out to them. So the best thing is to walk up to people and say, "Hey, teach me how to do this, and I'll take it off your table." It's not something you would have to worry about anymore. I think that's really brilliant.
I think it's also small things, right? You don't have to be the master of, like, you're an intern, right? You just pick a task that you either find fascinating or you see people are finding annoying. You say, "Hey, let me help you out with that small thing."
Right.
And you build trust.
Yes.
Because no matter where you are, if it's an internship or a job, people have to trust you.
Correct.
And you build trust with small wins, not with big wins.
Because I tell people, I say trust is not a gift, right? No one can gift you with trust. If I meet you today and I say I trust you, I'm lying to you. Or maybe I'm not lying, I just don't understand what I'm saying. Trust is earned, right? If someone gives you their word on something little and the person shows up, you're like, I trust this person to show up because of X, Y, Z, right? Because they've shown up before. So yeah, so you have to earn that trust by showing up and asking for stuff and then actually following through.
Very true.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. You ready?
Sure. Okay.
So you talked about negotiations, right? You said you are part of the process. So you don't have to be very specific for privacy issues. If you want to share, I'll be ready to listen to all the juice. What's your biggest negotiation win that you've had?
Oh, win that I had. Those are two separate questions.
Yeah.
I'm most proud of a process that the firm entrusted me with in terms of running from 0 to 100.
Okay.
It is, it's a big ask giving a 20-something kid, the ability to run a process from 0 to 100 and transact. And yes, there's support, and of course, there's oversight.
But you were the one, it was your project.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was my baby, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it was nice. And now we're expanding that to Saudi and expanding it to North America. We transacted.
You should be really proud of yourself. Yeah. I don't even know you that much, but I just feel proud to know that I know someone could do that.
Yes, that was something. And perhaps maybe that was also, in a sense, one of our best negotiation wins, because I think I haven't personally won a negotiation because I haven't needed to. At the end of the day, when someone's sitting at the table, I will be there to provide the data and the information and the advice required.
Yeah.
But it will be the board and senior management who will decide on the price, right? And I think that's probably for the best, because I have learned so much about negotiation.
Tell me what you've learned.
Maybe the first thing I learned is always be ready to walk away from the table.
Yep.
If you're desperate, you're never winning that.
Yeah, and people can smell desperation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's in the air. I guess. And it's a feeling, right? You want to be able to sit down and comfortably say, "Hey, listen, this is what I need, and if you can't give it to me,
it's okay." Leave. Yeah.
The second thing maybe is framing things. So you should be able to walk into a boardroom in a very tense and competitive environment and reframe it as a brainstorming session. If you can speak to people in a way that turns competition into collaboration,
that's a game changer. Then it becomes our problem.
Yes, our problem. I love that. Exactly. And then composure. I think composure is the most important thing, because when someone sits at a table, they're there to say their piece. When I go to negotiate with someone, I maybe, for example, have a predefined strategy, and I want to go there and say my piece. So maybe it's the responsibility of the opposing party, in this case also me, to make myself feel heard. So if you come to me and you in your head you say, "I want it for $10 or something like that," and I just hear you out, I genuinely listen to you, then I know what drives you. I know what your hard line is. I know maybe what gears to pull, and I can find a compromise.
Correct.
Because I think 9 times out of 10 people say, there's a book, right? Don't Split the Difference.
By Chris Voss.
I've never read it. I saw the name.
I've read it.
Is it good?
It is good. It is good. However, I have my it's a good book. Everyone should read that book if you want to learn how
What's
to
like
negotiate.
the 2-line takeaway of the book?
So it's more than 2 lines because it's
Sure,
very
yeah.
So there are some things he would say. He gives you like some taglines to use. Like if they give you an offer that you don't really like, you're like, how am I going to do that? And he talks about body language. He talks about framing things. But for me, when I negotiate, I'm ready to walk away. That's number one, because maybe like he's like a hostage negotiator. So that's a different kind of negotiating. So if it's life and death,
can't walk away from someone dying.
there's no best alternative to a negotiated agreement. It's like I need to get this person out, right? It's a good book to read, but it's not what I don't swear by the rules in that book because
you shouldn't. It should be,
you pick what's necessary and then you keep it moving.
The reason I brought it up, because I saw that you do discuss negotiation.
Correct.
And so the first thing that came to my mind for some reason was the name of that book.
Yeah.
I never read it.
Yeah.
But when you say never split the difference, I thought it meant don't compromise.
Sort of, kind of.
Yeah.
Do not ever, but sometimes I think you got to split the difference.
That's what I'm thinking, because this was on the drive here.
Yeah.
I actually think you do have to.
You have to split the difference.
Because, in the long, say for example, you play tennis and you only like playing tennis with someone who's at the same level as you and plays in the same style.
Yeah.
You like negotiating with someone who negotiates in a way that's amenable to you.
Correct.
To long-term value creation, to alignment, to incentivization, all that, the buzzwords.
Yeah.
But you like negotiating with someone consistently if you have that, you're on the same
that relationship. Yes.
Exactly. And so over time, it's not that you never split the difference. What happens, I think, is you win one battle and you lose one and you win one and you hard win, like you destroy them, and then you lose one and you're humiliated and you win one. And in the long run, you've actually compromised.
Correct.
Because you win some and you lose some. But the idea is it's a dance you play.
Correct. Because nobody wants to be at the short end of the stick all the time. And if everybody knows you, if they know that you are very tough, they're going to come ready for you, right? But if people know you're fair, even the day you are taking advantage of them, they would have no idea. They would,
very true.
Because they trust you. But because they trust you, then you don't want to lose that trust. But at the same time, you want to be known as someone who is fair when you do business. Some people who work for me, I tell them, I say, I want you to make money off me. I don't mind you making money off me. It's okay. I don't want to be that person who, when you work for, you leave, you're like, well, if I had options, I would not work for her. No, I want it to be that you're working for me because you like working for me, you enjoy working for me, and then I pay you what you deserve to be paid. I think that's just fair, right? I think it's a win-win situation. You want to create long-term relationships, people you can always reach out to, even when you're not doing business with them, and you can ask them for information that they are willing to give it to you because they like you. Because people tend to give you things when they like you. The more people like you, the more you would get along with negotiations.
Very true.
Yeah. So I agree with you 100% that it's okay to split the difference. Yes. So what's the worst? What's one worst? And it doesn't have to be business. It could be like personal. It could be whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
It's always interesting. I think it is about desperation, because when you're in college and you're applying for jobs and this and that, and I think maybe because outside of my workplace, because alhamdulillah, I'm blessed. So far, we've not had a bad negotiation in my workplace, but prior to that, when you're applying for jobs, every conversation you have is a micro negotiation. Of course. Because people are judging you and trying to understand if you fit their environment. And I think I was always too eager to say yes. I was always okay to fit the mold that was required of that vacancy or that position. And I think sometimes you forget the power of saying no.
Correct. Because you're desperate. You need it so badly.
Yeah. And I think a lot of students fall prey to that.
Yeah.
You say yes to the first thing that comes your way, and you say, we'll figure it out. We'll kick that can down the road and we'll figure it out later. And maybe that's fine for you to learn and build yourself up. But over time, that regret might live in your head, because now you've said, I'll figure it out later, but you never really do.
Correct.
Because you get stuck in that comfort zone and someone's given you a golden handcuff of promotion and you're gone. I think my biggest disappointment in that sense was learning very late
Yeah.
that you can say no and you can take a beat and you can think.
Correct. So I'll say something to that. You know, the best time to look for your next job is when you're happy in your current job. Because when you start looking for that job, when you go for interviews, it would show. You, because it's obvious you're not desperate, and when they give you offers that you don't like, you always have your great job to fall back to. So it's not till when you are, you know, you've been kicked out, or you are in a place where you're like, I just need to run away from this job. That's not the best time to look for another job. It's when you're still very comfortable where you are and you're like, okay, at this point I want to grow, and then you start to interview, because then you have the right frame of mind. You're not desperate. You can walk away. You can say no. And then to add to the other thing that you said about being in school, I would give people grace who take the first job that they get right out of school. I would give them grace, especially if it's like a 4-year program, or you are an intern. You know, I would give I would give you grace, but I would say, you know what, then you got to get up really fast. Don't stay here too long. Make sure your next job makes up for the mistake you made here, and don't stay at this job for too long. In 6 months, start looking for something different, because if you stay there for too long, so if you are taking like a $20,000 deficit in that first year, the second year that's a $40,000 deficit, and then when you do compound interest, if you had invested that money and all of that, then that's a bigger loss. But something else you can do is try to squeeze all the juice out of that company where you are. Learn everything that you can learn. So even if you've lost money, you've gained experience and you've gained knowledge that you can take with you.
I love that this is your thought process, because I swear to you, this is, I feel like, in the back of every employee's or career-oriented person's mind, that like deficit and that compound interest and like, oh, my gap is increasing. And I just thought it was an overthinking facet. But yeah, that's a very fair thought to have.
Because I'll give you a real life example. There's a lady who wanted me to help her with negotiating her contract. I looked at the numbers. She said she had almost kind of said yes to them. I'm like, you can ask for $30,000 more here. You can ask for $15,000 here. You can increase this. There's so many holes there. I'm like, these are things you can work on, right? So just imagine if they agree, and even if that, and she said, oh, I really like it because it's in a town where my spouse will be. I'm like, well, I agree, but why don't you interview in other places? Because she's a doctor, and it's not hard for doctors to get jobs in America. I'm like, you can interview in other places and then look at those numbers, and then if you choose to go with these people, then you made an informed decision. Not that you get there, because I remember one of the jobs that I had, when I got there, I was talking to one of my colleagues. She was like, oh, no, you can't negotiate that. I'm like, I did. I said I did. They gave me more. Yes, I said I asked for this. They gave it to me. I asked for it in a different way. So it's kind of like you were talking about reframing things. Let me give like a practical example of what I asked for. They gave me more sign-on bonus than they gave them. Then I asked for, I was still in training. I said, well, you guys have to give me some stipend while I'm still in school, because if I'm going to sign up with you guys, then you guys have to commit to me. And then they gave me that. And then they had like a fixed amount for relocation, and I said, well, I didn't have so much stuff. I lived in a 3-bedroom home. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to move to a bigger place, it's not so much stuff I need to move. So I'm like, okay, is there a way you guys can give me the whole money? I don't have to give you guys receipts for my relocation, because they say if you move, they'll give you show the receipt. If it cost me $3,000 to move, that means you're going to give me only $3,000. Meanwhile, I can get the whole money. Yeah. I'm like, why can't I just give me the whole? They were like, oh, that's fine. So those were little things I could look at. But so if I didn't get all of those, I don't regret, but I would say, okay, now I've learned, right? But I was lucky that I had some knowledge, so I knew how to negotiate for it. But I would have felt a little bit. So if people feel like they've lost money, they have lost money. They've lost money.
It is a daunting reality, but I think eventually you figure it out, right? It takes repetitive negotiations, because while you were speaking, I have just thought about my best personal negotiation that I've had successfully. And unfortunately, I cannot say that on camera.
Okay, that's fine.
And I've thought about the worst one. And I've also thought that, you know what you mentioned, that it is and I like what you said, is the best time to look for a job. The best time to look for a job is when you're happy in your current one. The issue with that is, that kind of pricks my sense of loyalty in a weird way. And I don't know if this is an issue for a lot of people, but for me, I am fiercely loyal to the people my friends and family, the people I love and the people I work with.
Yeah.
And I would actually feel, and I've had approaches from recruiters,
Yeah.
but I would actually feel really bad.
You feel like you're
in my
betraying
heart.
them.
Yes, if I were to entertain that.
Yeah.
And maybe that is in this cold world of capitalism, that is the wrong approach.
I don't think
you
so.
got to look out for yourself.
I don't think so 100%. I think it's great to have heart. You should not beat yourself for having heart, for having conscience. However, I would say go interview. Go interview and see what they have to offer. You may go interview and come back and say, oh, wow, I'm lucky here. You know what I mean?
That's true as well.
Yeah.
You understand the market and you understand your value in the market.
Yes, and then and then if you get an offer, you can come back and pitch to your boss and say, hey, I just got this offer. Can you give me a raise? Because, and then you're not bluffing. You're showing them the real numbers that you have and say, true. Can you give me a raise? And you'll be surprised what would happen.
That is good advice.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
When I interviewed with the firm at, and maybe this shouldn't be put out, but my CEO, so I was technically interviewed, so I had a technical interview and a behavioral interview, and the analysts and associates interviewed me, and then the CEO walked in and he said, okay, you guys can leave, and he had a personal one-on-one chat with me.
Yeah.
And he said, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
You see, lots of people have been asking you this question.
Yeah. And I said, I want to run my own fund.
Yeah.
And in our industry, maybe now less so, but historically and to a large extent now, it's a crazy thing to say. If you're early 20s to say, I want to run my own fund, in 5 years, people would say, no, you need pedigree, you need network, you need experience, you need a track record.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, there's a reason I'm here with you in a slightly smaller firm with people with very good experience.
Yeah.
And, people who know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because I can learn how you're developing that from scratch.
Yeah.
You're day zero, you're starting from scratch and you're transacting heavy numbers,
right.
and you know how to do things.
Right.
And I want to implement all of those processes and inshallah run my own fund. Because at the end of the day, investing isn't the tough part, and sourcing the right deals in a hot economy is not the tough part.
Oh, really?
It's building a team that you can trust.
Right.
It's being answerable to your shareholders, your investors.
Yeah.
And it's about running everything you do with integrity, because in a market that's super hot, with deals around every corner, and with inflated transaction values, it's relatively easy, once you have the right network and the right experience, to generate cash. For me, it's important to do things the right way.
I agree.
So I would think in 5 years, if I'm blessed, inshallah, I would have
your own.
a little small, I don't need a big shop, a small shop of my own with a few people running transactions.
Yeah.
And I'd go home and I'd be happy and peaceful.
Yeah.
Preferably, I'd also have a cheetah. That is like this.
You don't want to be that guy in the UAE.
No, I'm not even, it's not even for Instagram. My social media is dead. I don't do that. It's just, I watched this movie as a kid, Duma.
Yeah.
It's a South African kid who found a cheetah in the wild.
That's a movie, right?
You know the movie?
No, I said it's a movie. It's not real life, right?
all movies are inspired by real life.
How well can you domesticate the wild cats?
No, from birth.
That's my fear. It's not like it's cheetahs are beautiful.
Okay, let me give you an example, right?
Okay.
And I'm passionate about this. So a leopard.
I'm all ears now. Huh?
Perfect. There's a trainer out in, I think, New Zealand. I forget where. Redbeard, nice guy. Anyway, he takes care of big cats.
Yeah.
He domesticates and takes care of a couple leopards from the time they were like little cubs, babies. Yeah. And he leaves them then when they're young adults for a year. And after a year, when he walks up to them and they're in cages, and he turns around, he turns his back, and he's facing the camera, the leopards crawl and prowl towards him, and then charge and try to kill him, try to eat him, literally. And these are leopards he's raised since he was a kid, since they were kids. And then he does the same thing with the cheetah he raised since it was a cub, without a cage.
Yeah.
Turns his back, and the cheetah pounds across, like he, charges at him, and he puts his head over him, and he gives him a big lick. And then he licks his face all over. And he hugs him, and he sleeps.
That sounds like a good story, but I'm still scared of wildcats. I'm not bought over by that because even like regular cats, they're crazy. The one like really cats, like the kittens that you have, they're crazy. One moment they're like, and the next thing they're scratching you. So
they're temperamental. They do what they want.
Yeah. So I don't know, but hey, I'll come visit and then look from like a distance and take pictures and I'll post on Instagram.
Yeah, deal. Okay.
So let me ask you this question. I asked one. I've asked this question before. So if God comes to you and he says, I have all these character traits, and he has it in his hand and he's God, right? He has all the power. And he said, what traits do you want to pick? What would you pick in there? It could be like just
all the ones I'm missing.
Okay, he says just one. Pick just one. Not all the way, because he might have to nothing might be left at the end of the day, right? So just pick one.
Yeah, I could be greedy, honestly. Honestly, probably none.
You won't pick anything.
No.
No patience, no kindness, not wisdom.
And that's not saying that I don't have. No. That's not saying that. God knows I have a lot to learn in life, and God knows I have a lot to change and improve. And I think we all do at all stages of our life. I think you are built in the way you're supposed to be.
You think so?
I really believe that.
You think there's no room for improvement?
No. I don't mean you don't improve.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever your base character, like look at it like, do you know Dragon Ball Z?
I do not.
Never mind. It's a stupid analogy. It's this show I grew up on. But okay, look at it as, for example, a video game, right?
Yeah.
You start off as a base character, and you have maybe 10 buckets.
Yeah.
That could be strength and wisdom and magic and flight and whatever. And you've got the ability to improve all of them.
Yeah.
But you're only given those 10 buckets.
Yeah.
And a different video game character could have different 10 buckets.
Yeah.
I think the 10 buckets I was given.
It's enough.
It's not only enough, it's what God meant it to be.
And you just have to work on them and make them better.
You gotta play with the cards you have.
Yeah.
Because the cards you have are not the best cards in the world, but they're the
your cards
you're meant to have.
Yeah.
You were made with those cards for a reason.
Yeah.
I genuinely, truly believe every single person on this planet has been made in the way God wanted them to be.
See, I want to agree with you because I feel like if you have strengths and you have weaknesses, I'd rather you work on your strengths so it gets bigger and then your weakness looks smaller because you have so much strength. But at the same time, there's some weaknesses that if we have them, it might damage all the strengths that you have. Just one display of that weakness might make all your strengths look like you do not have any strength if it's not well controlled. So you can see where I struggle, right? Where I feel like if God, like it's a gift, right? If God comes to me with a gift, I'll take it. It's free, right? So why would I say no to God? Why would I say no to an opportunity to develop myself a little bit better? That's how I see it. Because one weakness can just kind of mess you up completely if it's not well controlled.
Very true.
Yeah.
But I think that is also, in a sense, a test of who you are, controlling that weakness.
But if you can control it, it's no longer a weakness.
In a sense.
Yeah.
Then you turn your weakness into your strength. That's perfect.
So now, back to my original question, since we want to turn some weaknesses into strength, so what would you ask for? What would you pick?
Sure. So you've reframed it.
Yeah, I have.
And you'd still like the same answer. I see where you're going with this. And I will not indulge in this mental battle. I will answer you. If you asked me a year ago, I'd say organization. I couldn't organize myself. Actually, when I walked into my office, I was fortunate enough for them to procure us a whiteboard. And I spent a few months organizing not only mine, but pretty much everyone's tasks because it kept me up to date.
Gotcha.
So I would ask I'm the youngest one in the firm, so I would ask people older than me, what'd you do on this and what'd you do on that? And that's not because they report to me at all.
No.
That's more, it keeps me up to date, keeps me on track. So I learned how to organize, and I, shout out to Abdullah Bhai. He's my senior associate at the firm.
Yeah.
He taught me a lot about organization, just in the way that he acts. But if you ask me now, what's a weakness I would turn into a strength?
Yeah.
I think I will give you a genuine weakness. I won't give you one of those. This is.
If you're not comfortable, you don't have to share.
No, that's fine.
You don't have to share with the whole world.
That's fine. I'm not going to do that. This is
that generic.
Yeah. Like, I work too hard.
Yeah.
I attention to detail.
Yeah.
No, none of that. Perhaps follow through. Let's say that.
Yeah.
I'm constantly surrounded by and internally bustling with ideas. I'm constantly taking initiative to do
Right.
different things. And maybe it's a symptom of the line of things you do. You know, you work at your day job, you run things on weekends, you
Yeah.
do a little freelance consultancy, you do
Yeah.
this and that. And maybe it's a symptom of all of that. But
Yeah.
oftentimes I see that I will have 7 different things
Projects,
happening.
and then it's so hard
and
to follow through.
it's tough to get all of them to completion.
Yeah.
I'd get 5 to completion, but 2 will fall in the wayside. And I tell myself that 2 fall away or wither away because that's what's meant to be. But
Really?
in all and perhaps that's a coping mechanism. But in actuality, it would be nice to be able to execute all 7
Have you considered maybe some of the ideas that you have, sharing it with people who can run with that idea?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, because sometimes you can. Some people do not have creative ideas, but they can take your ideas and run with it. That because I have lots of ideas and I do a lot of things. But what I'm learning especially at this phase in my career, is I look for people who I partner with. So if I have this idea, I think it's a really good idea. I look for someone who has some strength, who I trust, and I'm like, let's partner on this together. Then I can still give the oversight while that person is running with the idea. Because if you have lots of ideas, it's hard to. It's hard to follow through, you know.
It's true, and that's how you plant seeds as well.
Correct.
And you wait for them to harvest.
Correct. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. What last words do you have for my audience, and where can my audience find you?
I don't know. It's silly, but really, it's, you know, I've only been working a year and a half now, and I learned more now than ever. It's very important to stay true to yourself.
Stay true to yourself.
Yeah. In a city like this, with constantly shifting ideas and faces, and you know, one day a company exists and one day it doesn't, and one day a person has an idea and one day they don't. You got to stick true to your values, and you got to know what those values are. I think that's my final word. And you can find me on Instagram and LinkedIn.
But you can say the full name. You can say your full name.
Oh yeah, my name is Anas Memon. Instagram's Anas Memon 9. 9 used to be my football jersey back in the golden days. And yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you.
I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to Anas, and I hope you've learned 1 or 2 things from him. But there are 2 takeaways that I want to turn over to you. Number 1, stay true to yourself. And then number 2, be proactive. So wherever you find yourself today, even if you're top management, even if you're an intern, try to be more proactive. So take on more roles so you learn. No one's going to hand anything over to you that's of importance. So you have to sort of fight for that. So I want you to try to do that this week. And then if you haven't followed this podcast, please follow, like, share with your friends. Let's build a community of people who know how to negotiate. And then last but not least, I strongly believe you have the potential to be great. So go be great. Thank you.